I thought it'd be a nice surprise. I really did. It was a Wednesday, nothing special about it. The kind of day that disappears between coffee and inbox tabs. I had wrapped up a client call early, and on a whim, I drove across town to Kelly's co-working space with a paper bag from her favorite lunch spot in my passenger seat. Rosemary chicken, her usual. I even remembered the vinaigrette on the side. Just something small. A reminder, maybe, that I was still trying. She'd been distant lately. Longer hours. Cancelled plans. A strange new guardedness about her phone. But I hadn't put it all together yet. Not really. I wasn't there to catch her doing something. I just missed my wife. Her co-working space was in a converted warehouse near the water in San Diego. Exposed brick, glass walls, track lighting that made everyone look like they belonged in a productivity app ad. I signed in with the front desk associate, who didn't question me when I said I was dropping off lunch. Just smiled with a practiced kind of disinterest and buzzed me through the glass doors. I walked past the common area, past the minimalist bookshelves and overpriced ergonomic chairs, and scanned the main floor. She was there at a long oak table, talking with 3 colleagues. 2 women I didn't recognize and a tall guy in a button-down shirt who looked like he could have been cast as consulting bro number 3 in a Netflix workplace dramedy. Kelly had her laptop open, her body angled slightly toward the guy, laughing at something he said just a bit too brightly. Her phone was beside her, screen down as usual. And that's when I saw it. Sitting right in front of her, in clear view, was a small white keycard holder. The kind you get from boutique hotels with brushed gold hardware and unnecessary ambient playlists in the elevators. It was folded open. I could see the bold black lettering inside. Room 212, double occupancy. Check-in, Tuesday, 6:37 p.m. Bayside Marina Hotel. My heart didn't race. It didn't break. It just paused. Like time narrowed down to a single moment, and I was standing in the middle of it. Right next to the card was a men's navy blazer, tossed casually over the back of an adjacent chair. And next to that, like some goddamn cherry on top, was a lanyard with a guest badge. Mark S. Printed in bold sans serif font. I hadn't even said a word yet. Someone else at the table noticed me first. A blonde woman with round glasses. Her eyes flicked up from her screen, widened for a fraction of a second, and then dropped again like nothing had happened. That's when Kelly turned. She froze. Only for a second, but I saw it. That small catch in her expression. The moment where her brain clocked me and recalculated her next move. "Ethan," she said with that half-laugh she used when things weren't going to plan. "What are you doing here?" I held up the bag slightly. "You said you were skipping lunch. Thought I'd bring you something." "Oh," she smiled. Too quickly. "That's sweet." There was a pause. Her co-workers said nothing. The guy, Mark, I guessed, looked down at his laptop and pretended to be deeply focused on something that didn't exist. "But I'm in the middle of something," she added, her tone shifting, a slight edge creeping in. "This probably isn't the best time to drop in. We're trying to finalize something before our 2 o'clock. It's kind of disruptive." Disruptive. I blinked. That word hung in the air like smoke. I looked down at the table again, and this time she followed my gaze. Her eyes landed on the keycard sleeve, then the blazer, then the badge. In one fluid motion, she reached for them. Too fast, too rehearsed, and swept everything into her tote bag like she was gathering loose receipts. "Oh, that stuff? It's for a client," she said. "Out-of-town guy. We're onboarding him this week. The hotel thing, it's just how the company books rooms for guest consultants." I didn't say anything. Her face tightened, just slightly, when she realized I wasn't playing along. "Well," I said finally, setting the lunch bag gently on the table in front of her. "Enjoy your sandwich." She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something else. Maybe explain, maybe defend, maybe deflect, but I didn't give her the chance. I turned and walked out. No dramatic exit. No parting words. Just the sound of my shoes on polished concrete and the pressure of several dozen eyes pretending not to look. I didn't even hear the glass doors click shut behind me. The air outside was warm. Not hot. But I remember thinking it should have been colder. Like the weather should have matched what I felt. I didn't drive away right away. I sat in my car, hands on the steering wheel, staring at the digital clock on the dash as if it might tell me something other than the time. 1:48 p.m. I don't know how long I sat there. Could have been 10 minutes. Could have been 30. But somewhere in that stillness, I realized I'd crossed some invisible line. A line I'd been skirting for weeks, maybe months. The line between suspicion and confirmation. Between doubt and inevitability. Because that wasn't just a key card. It wasn't just a hotel badge. It was a moment. The moment she looked at me like I didn't belong. Like my presence was inconvenient. Unwelcome. Like I was the one who had something to explain. That's what hit me hardest. Not the card. Not the blazer. Not even the badge with some other man's name. It was her tone. Her cold, dismissive tone. Like I was a glitch in the simulation she'd carefully built. And she was irritated I'd shown up to remind her it wasn't real. And suddenly, so many things made sense. The weeks she'd been working late with no actual deliverables to show for it. The weekends she canceled last minute. Just too tired. Or a friend emergency. Or girl time. The routes she started taking to and from work that didn't align with traffic patterns or logic. The phone she always kept face down. The way her eyes would light up at random notifications, but never when she looked at me. And the way she'd started to make me the problem whenever I asked. I was controlling. I was suspicious. I was smothering. All because I dared to wonder where the hell my wife had gone. Now I knew. Or at least, I knew enough. I started the car, pulled away from the curb and didn't look back. I wasn't going to ask her who Mark S. was. I didn't need to ask. I didn't need to wait for a confession or a half-lie dressed up like remorse. Because something had broken in me when she called my presence disruptive. She could keep her lunch. She could keep her hotel badges and her blazer explanations. But what she wouldn't get ever again was the benefit of my doubt. I didn't go home right away. Instead, I drove. Nowhere specific. Just aimed the car toward the highway and let the coastline roll by, watching the whitecaps crash against jagged rocks while my mind did the same thing to my thoughts. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel anger, not yet. What I felt was something colder. A kind of confirmation. A silent I knew it that had been building for weeks. The truth is, the lunch scene wasn't a revelation. It was a reveal. A pulling back of the curtain on something I'd already started to piece together in fragments. This wasn't a sudden betrayal. It was the slow bleeding out of something that used to feel alive. The first warning sign was subtle. A few months ago, she started changing her routes after work. I noticed when she shared her ETA through text, and I'd see her ping in parts of the city we had no reason to be in. One night, I asked her why she took the long way home through La Jolla instead of the usual freeway. She shrugged, said traffic had been worse lately. Waze rerouted me, she added, but the freeway data said otherwise. It hadn't been congested. I checked more than once and still I told myself it was nothing. Maybe she just liked the ocean view. Then came the meetings. Always in the evening. Always unscheduled. Client follow-ups, she'd say. Internal reviews. Strategic planning. Yet when I asked who she was meeting with, she'd get vague. Sometimes irritated. Like I was invading her privacy for caring. You don't ask about every email I send, she said once, dismissively. Why is this any different? That was the moment it shifted from strange to suspicious. Because even when the topic changed, her mood didn't. She became defensive. Like she was preparing for questions before I asked them. Like she had answers rehearsed. That's when I started to feel it. That slow pull in my gut. The kind you get when something isn't right but isn't loud enough to name yet. I noticed she stopped initiating plans. Weekend hikes we used to look forward to? Too busy. Movie nights? Too tired. Date nights? Let's do it next week. There was always something, always some nebulous reason we had to delay. And when I did manage to get us out of the house, she was distracted. Checking her phone constantly. Smiling at texts I couldn't see. Her face would light up at some buzz. Then go blank again the moment she looked at me. At first, I told myself it was work stress. She'd taken on a new role. More meetings, more responsibility. I tried to be understanding. But understanding eventually turns into excuse-making. And excuse-making becomes denial when the math stops adding up. We shared an expense tracking app. It had started as a way to budget together, back when we were planning for a trip to Europe that now sat permanently in someday. I stopped checking it regularly until one night, I opened it and saw 3 different charges in the span of a week from restaurants and coffee shops in a part of the city we never went to. I tapped into one of them, a place called Indigo Vine, a wine bar, one we used to talk about visiting but never did. Had a team dinner, she explained when I asked. Twice this week. She blinked, caught off guard. The first was a networking thing. Different group. You know how it is. Except I didn't. And even if I had, she didn't owe them 2 nights at Indigo Vine. That was when I checked the smart lock logs on our front door. It wasn't hard, we'd installed the system ourselves 2 years ago. Synced to our phones, programmable for guests. Every entry, every code, time-stamped, labeled. I wasn't expecting anything. Not really. But then I saw it. Guest code 5B3, accessed, Thursday, 11:09 p.m. Guest code 5B3, accessed, Monday, 10:44 p.m. Guest code 5B3, accessed, Sunday, 9:32 p.m. We'd only created guest codes for the cleaners and for her sister, both of whom hadn't visited in months. I checked the name tied to 5B3. It was labeled, Delivery Test, a throwaway. I stared at the logs for 20 minutes. Cross-referenced the entries with the nights she claimed to be working late. All 3 matched. The next morning, I brought it up casually. Asked if the cleaning service had come by again without telling me. She looked at me with wide, blank eyes. No, she said. Why? Thought I saw some odd entries on the door log. Probably a glitch. She nodded too fast, eyes on her phone again. And then there was her tone. Every conversation felt loaded. Not loud, not dramatic, just tense. Like she was waiting to be confronted for something. She kept accusing me of being cold. You've been distant, she'd say, flipping the script. It's like you're mad at me all the time. The irony was nauseating. I wasn't mad. I was confused, disoriented, watching my wife turn into a stranger one boundary at a time. The turning point came on a Friday. We were supposed to spend the weekend in Temecula. A small Airbnb, some winery tours, just us. She canceled that morning. Something came up at work. Can't be helped. She said it with a tone that dared me to push back. I didn't. I just nodded. Then watched from the living room window as she drove off wearing makeup she never wore for me anymore. Later that night, she posted a photo to her story. Just a wine glass. Candlelight. The location tag blurred out. No faces. No caption. Just a heart emoji. I stared at it for 10 minutes, then closed my phone. That's when the emotion finally started to shift. It wasn't sadness. Not exactly. It was realization. A slow, quiet betrayal building in the background like a virus you don't notice until it's too far gone. And it had spread into everything. Our routines, our silences, even the way she hugged me. Arms limp, eyes elsewhere. I stopped trying to fix it. Stopped asking questions she didn't want to answer. I started watching instead. And what I saw told me everything I needed to know. She still wore her ring, but never touched it anymore. Her lock screen changed, from a photo of the 2 of us at Sunset Cliffs to a minimalist stock wallpaper. When I asked about it, she said the photo was too busy. She started turning the brightness on her phone all the way down, holding it close when she texted, setting it screen side down whenever we sat on the couch. One night, I picked it up to move it when she was in the bathroom, and the screen flared with a message preview. Marcus, can't stop thinking about last night. You looked incredible. Can we talk? I didn't open it. I didn't have to, because in that moment I knew. Not the name, not the details, but the shape of it, the rhythm, the contour of her deception. She had already left. I was just still standing in the space where she used to be. The lunch incident, the keycard, the blazer, the guest badge, it wasn't the crime. It was the body at the end of the trail. The moment you stop wondering if you're crazy and start wondering how long you've been made a fool. I wish I could say I felt broken, but mostly I felt clear. And clarity, no matter how painful, is still a kind of mercy. The next morning started like any other. At least it pretended to. The sunlight filtered through the blinds in those tight little lines across the floor. I brewed coffee, stared at the kitchen tile while it dripped, and tried to feel normal. Tried to act like I wasn't waiting for a shoe that had already dropped. I hadn't brought up the hotel keycard, or the guest badge, or the fact that Kelly had looked at me like I'd barged into the wrong room of her life. What would I even say? She hadn't offered an explanation that made sense. Just a wave of her hand and a tone meant to shrink me. That part had hurt more than anything. The story she'd chosen to sell wasn't even good. It was just designed to end the conversation before it started. But the thing about pretending everything's okay? It only works until the data starts talking. And that morning, it did. I was halfway through my first cup of coffee when my phone buzzed with a notification from our shared credit card. We hadn't formally separated our finances yet, though I'd been moving more and more of my own transactions to a different account over the past few months. This charge wasn't mine, and it definitely wasn't accidental. Bayside Marina Hotel, $362.50. Line items. Room 212 breakfast for 2 late checkout. My thumb hovered over the screen for a long moment, just reading the line again. Room 212. The same number from the keycard I'd seen on the co-working table. Breakfast for 2. Not 1. Not a quick coffee. 2. A shared morning. Late checkout. That was it. I didn't need a confession. The card hadn't been misplaced. It hadn't belonged to a guest she was onboarding. And no one books a double occupancy room, stays overnight, orders room service, and lingers into the afternoon for work purposes. I didn't feel a rush of rage, just stillness. She hadn't even tried to hide it. Or maybe she didn't care if I saw it anymore. That was the part that stung the most. This quiet, careless unraveling. Like she'd decided I wasn't worth even a well-built lie. I opened our shared cloud drive out of habit, intending to back up some files from work. That's when I saw the photo. It was buried in an auto-uploaded folder marked with the hotel's name, likely synced from her phone without her realizing it. A casual oversight. It was her. Kelly stood in front of a full-length mirror, holding a glass of wine, wearing a black dress I didn't recognize. Her hair was done in soft curls, and she had that half-smile she used to give me when she wanted to be noticed. In the background, reflected in the mirror's edge, was the blurry silhouette of a man stepping out of the bathroom. He was shirtless. His hand rested against the doorframe, caught mid-movement. The watch on his wrist was thick, gold-toned, and unmistakable. The kind of accessory you notice not because it's flashy, but because it says, "Someone gave this to me who wanted to be remembered." I stared at the photo longer than I probably should have. Every detail felt personal. Her posture, the soft flush in her cheeks, the way she held the glass like she wasn't posing, just existing in a moment she never meant for me to see. The man's face wasn't visible, but that didn't matter. I already knew his name. I opened her laptop. She rarely used it. Most of her work was done on her phone these days, but I remembered her complaining about her messaging app crashing and switching to the desktop version. When I clicked open the messenger, it was still logged in. The first message that loaded was from Mark S. Mark S. That night was ideal. You were magic. Let's not wait too long to do it again. I can still smell you on my skin. There were messages before it. Some short, some long. One thread that had gone on late into the night 2 weeks ago, while she told me she was too tired to talk. The conversation was int asterisk mate. Not just physically, emotionally, inside jokes, references I didn't understand, familiarity that didn't belong to me. That was when the room shifted. Everything became too quiet. The walls, the furniture, even the hum of the fridge felt like they were waiting for me to react. But I didn't move. I just sat there, reading the words from a man I had never met but somehow already hated. There was one more thing I checked. I opened the smart lock app on my phone again. I went back to the night before, the evening she'd claimed to be working late. 10:56 p.m. Guest code 5B3. Entry confirmed. She hadn't even bothered to change the code. He'd been here, in our home, walking our floors, drinking from our glasses. God knows what else. Maybe that's why the wine rack had a bottle missing. Why the extra throw blanket had been washed without me noticing. I closed the app, turned off the laptop, and then I sat in the silence again. The denial was gone. There was nothing left to speculate. No questions to ask. No accusations to float and dance around in conversation. I had the receipt, the photo, the chat logs, the door entry, and I had that morning charge, sitting in our shared transaction history like a final punctuation mark. Breakfast for two. The worst part? She didn't even try to erase it. Some people get caught because they're sloppy, others because they're daring. But Kelly? She got caught because she stopped seeing me as someone who could catch her. I stood up from the kitchen table and looked around the house, our house, or what had been ours, until she invited someone else into the walls. The living room still had the couch we picked out together. The hallway still had that framed photo from our trip to Sedona. Everything around me still looked like our life, but none of it felt real anymore, because she had already started building another one, right under my nose. And I was done pretending not to notice. She texted around 5:17 p.m. Running behind. Might have to stay late again. Sorry, babe. Don't wait up. The words didn't move me. Not anymore. I stared at the message until the screen dimmed and the phone locked itself. It was already done. I didn't answer. Instead, I walked into the bedroom, opened the closet, and pulled out the suitcase I hadn't touched since our last trip. One she bailed on last minute, claiming she couldn't get away from Q4 deadlines. I packed only the essentials. 3 days worth of clothes, my backup hard drives, documents, chargers, headphones, the watch my father gave me when I graduated college, and a framed photo of my late mom. I left everything else behind, stuff we'd bought together, items with her fingerprints on them. I didn't want any of it. This wasn't a flinch or an impulsive escape. I wasn't storming out. There would be no confrontation, no explosion of voices, no dramatic last words for her to distort later. She could keep her version of events. I was taking mine with me. I moved quietly, methodically. I unplugged my work setup, monitors, external keyboard, mic stand, and set it into its travel case. I loaded it into the back of my car. I looked around once, checked the door locks on the app, and then opened our joint banking portal on my laptop. I removed her as an authorized user. The moment I clicked confirm, a quiet weight lifted from my chest, the kind you don't notice until it's finally gone. Then I turned to autopay. We had several shared expenses: electric, internet, mortgage drafts, car insurance. I disabled every card I had connected to her name. She could pay her share if she wanted. Or not. Either way, I was no longer going to finance her duplicity. I logged into our shared cloud accounts, downloaded all of my files, then disconnected my devices. I removed my phone from the family location sharing setting. Logged out of the calendar she no longer used to coordinate anything with me anyway. Changed my email passwords, my Apple ID, my recovery questions. It felt surgical, cold. Not because I was numb, but because I was awake now. Finally alert. Every system, every keystroke, every physical step felt like peeling away the final layers of what I used to call us. Around 7:30, I put a copy of the house key on the entry table with a small note next to it. You don't have to explain. I saw enough. The silence isn't punishment. It's clarity. I took nothing sentimental from the house. No anniversary keepsakes, no birthday cards, not even the books she'd inscribed over the years. I didn't want her handwriting near me, not after reading what she wrote to him. Before I left, I stood in the doorway of our bedroom. Our bed was still made. Her side still had the silk pillowcase she claimed helped her hair stay smooth. My side looked untouched because it had been, for nights. I didn't linger. I locked the door behind me for the last time and drove east, away from the lights of San Diego. Past downtown, past the gas lamp, past all the places that used to mean something. I didn't play music. Didn't call anyone. Just drove, the rhythm of tires on asphalt and the slow ticking of the turn signal becoming the only sounds I needed. By 10:45 p.m., I had arrived at a small rental house just off the lake in Elsinore. Quiet, 2 bedrooms, minimal furniture, and most importantly, no history. I had signed the lease a few days ago, quietly, while the suspicions still lived in my throat instead of in hard evidence. Something in me had already begged *n preparing. The landlord met me at the door, handed me the keys, and walked away without small talk. I liked that. I stepped inside and shut the door behind me. It was mine. The air smelled like dust and old wood, nothing warm, nothing familiar, and that was exactly what I wanted. I opened a window, let the night air roll in. Then I laid my suitcase on the floor and sat on the edge of the couch, listening to the quiet. There was no yelling, no confrontation, no begging for answers she wouldn't give truthfully, no giving her the satisfaction of watching me break. Because I wouldn't. Not for her. Not for anyone who saw me as an afterthought in my own life. I left her in silence because anything I said would be twisted. If I'd confronted her, she would have lied. She would have cried. She would have begged, maybe even blamed me. Maybe she'd dig up a story about how we'd been drifting or how she felt alone, as if that justified turning our marriage into a masquerade. Instead, I gave her nothing. And nothing, I've found, is the most deafening answer of all. She would come home and find the house intact but hollowed out. No accusations. No ultimatums. No slammed doors. Just that one line on the entry table, next to a key she didn't expect to ever be alone with. Let her explain that to Mark. Let her tell him why her husband didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't fight. Just left. Just vanished from the version of life she thought she controlled. I didn't need closure. I needed space. And I finally had it. At midnight, I disabled my old phone number and activated a new line. I sent it to exactly 3 people, my brother, my best friend, and my employer. Everyone else could reach me through the void if they needed to. My last act of the night was opening a blank document on my laptop and writing one sentence. I didn't lose her. She let go. I just finally noticed. Then I closed the lid, turned off the lamp, and fell asleep listening to the wind outside. A different kind of silence. One that didn't ache. The kind that felt like the start of something new. For the first few days, there was only silence, which suited me just fine. No missed calls, no "where are you?" messages, no dramatic voicemails. Just quiet. Maybe she assumed I'd cool off and come crawling back with questions and half-hearted ultimatums. Maybe she thought I was sulking somewhere, waiting for her to apologize just enough to keep the cycle going. But I wasn't sulking. I was gone. By the time she realized that, the messages started. First, a simple text. "Hey, are you okay? Please talk to me." Then came the follow-up an hour later. "Ethan, I don't know what happened. Can we talk? I'm really confused." Confused. She was confused. I ignored it. I wasn't interested in seeing how many ways she could contort reality to protect herself. Her version of the story wasn't mine to carry anymore. That night, she sent a longer message. A full scroll of performative sincerity. "I know something's wrong. I came home and I saw what you did. I saw the note. I don't know what you think you saw, but I wish you'd have just talked to me instead of walking away. This doesn't feel like you. This feels like punishment. I deserve a conversation, Ethan. After everything we've been through." I didn't reply. She didn't want a conversation. She wanted a stage. A place to plead her case. Reframe. Rewrite. Rewind. She could keep it. The next morning, I woke up to 4 missed calls from her and 1 from a blocked number. Then a voicemail, her voice low and trembling. "Ethan, please, I just need to hear your voice. I know I messed something up. I know I hurt you. But I don't even know how. Just call me. Please." It was all control wrapped in fragility. The kind of please that isn't about remorse but about reclaiming attention. I blocked her number. I forwarded every message to a folder marked legal and sent the entire chain to my lawyer. He didn't ask questions. Just replied, "Noted. Let me know if anything escalates." It didn't take long for things to get messy on her end. 2 weeks into my absence, I got an email from a burner address. The subject line just said, "You need to see this." Inside was a set of **TS. 6 images. No explanation. No signature. Just digital proof dropped into my lap like a bomb. The first image was a Slack conversation from her company's internal workspace. Kelly and someone named Vanessa exchanging messages. "Vanessa, just a heads up. Accounting's flagging your travel reimbursements again. You submitted for 4 nights, but your calendar only shows 2 days booked in Chicago. Kelly, it's a mix-up. They always screw it up when Mark's looped in. We shared rooms to cut costs. It's approved." Vanessa, shared rooms? Girl, you sure that's something you want documented? The second image was a reimbursement form. The same boutique hotel name from before, Bayside Marina, alongside inflated client entertainment meal charges for 2, and oddly specific Wi-Fi fees from multiple devices on the same night. The third image showed a forwarded memo, someone from HR launching an internal audit. Due to repeated discrepancies in travel reporting, I read each **T slowly. It was all unraveling. Not just in our marriage, but in her workplace. The lines between her affair and her job had blurred in ways she couldn't manage anymore. The fourth image hit harder. A forwarded chain between Kelly and Mark S. Taken from a personal Gmail account, leaked by someone I'll probably never meet. Mark S. You didn't tell me you reused the guest code again. That's a little risky, don't you think? Kelly, Ethan never checks. He's too busy with his deadlines. It's fine. Mark S. You sure? He seems smart, quiet but observant. Kelly, he suspects nothing. He'd rather pretend than deal with it. That one stung. Not because it was wrong, but because for a while it had been right. I had ignored so many signs to protect an idea of her that didn't exist anymore. The final **T was a forwarded message from someone I recognized. Kelly's colleague, Jeremy. We had met once at a company mixer. Quiet guy. Glasses. Sharp. I don't know you, but I know what's going on. You deserved better. She made you look like a fool behind your back. I figured you should at least have the full picture. Sorry. He didn't need to apologize. He gave me a gift. After that, I heard nothing from her directly. Maybe she finally got the message. Maybe she was too busy trying to explain things to HR. Maybe Mark bailed the moment consequences showed up. I didn't care. I didn't track it. I didn't obsess. I just forwarded the new files to my lawyer and then archived everything. Meanwhile, my life moved forward. The house in Elsinore became more than a shelter. It became a sanctuary. I filled it with things that didn't remind me of her. Neutral tones. A new coffee mug with no story behind it. Blank walls that I painted myself. No photos, no souvenirs. Just space. I started waking early, running by the lake. The air was cooler than it ever was in San Diego, quieter too. I picked up a personal trainer who lived nearby. A guy named Tom who never asked personal questions and always showed up on time. Exactly the kind of presence I needed. In the afternoons, I threw myself into work. I enrolled in project management certification courses and began rebuilding a portfolio I hadn't updated since before the pandemic. I took on freelance photography gigs, *TS, small business branding, anything that paid. I even got offered a contract with a local brand for lifestyle visuals. Felt good to create again. I said yes. I got a call a few weeks later from a friend who'd moved to Georgia years ago. He ran a boutique marketing firm out of Savannah and had heard I was freelancing. They needed someone full-time. Not just photography, strategy, content planning, paid relocation. I didn't hesitate. Within a month, I was gone. The lease in Elsinore was short-term. My new place in Savannah was small but fresh. Exposed brick, open concept, walkable to everything. The kind of place that didn't echo with her name when I opened the door. I changed everything: email, bank accounts, healthcare providers. New doctor. New barbershop. New gym. Not to hide. To start over. To build something she had never touched. I met new people. Slowly. Cautiously. My new co-workers were kind but never pried. I told them I'd moved for work. Which wasn't a lie. I kept to myself those first few weeks. but it felt good. To be in control of my hours, my thoughts, my name. I stopped checking her social media. I stopped wondering what Mark was doing, or if he was even still in the picture. None of it mattered now. I had left the table where I was once told I didn't belong, and I was finally building my own.